Okay, this is next video in our continuation for AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam practice questions. And we are covering the questions from examtopics.com website. Okay, so let's try to cover next 15 to 20 questions. So a company run its workload on premises. The company wants to forecast the cost of running a large application on AWS. So right now they are on the own premises, but they are planning to move to the AWS. So they want, before moving to the AWS, they want to forecast the cost. So which AWS service or tool the company can use to obtain the information. So if I move to the AWS, so what I can do is I can use the pricing calculator to calculate the cost. Okay, what could be the cost if I use the service over the cloud? So it could be the pricing calculator. It's not the budget, because budget is only when you are on the AWS. Trusted advisor, it's the AWS service, so you are not on the AWS. So cost explorer will give you the cost of the usage of the services when you actually start using the services on the AWS. So answer is AWS pricing calculator. So they said D is wrong, but 91% of the people say A. So we will go with the one which is the most people say, or which we think like it could be the right answer. A company wants to eliminate the needs to guess infrastructure capacity before deployment. So they don't want to think like how much capacity we need. The company also want to spend its budget on cloud resources only as the company use their resources. It basically means like pay as you go. So whatever they use, they want to spend. So they don't need to think. Which advantage of the AWS? So disadvantage is the pay as you go pricing. It's not the reliability. Reliability is like when you are like deploy something and something fail, it should automatically get recover. It's not global reach. It's not economics of scale. It's the pay as you go pricing. So option D is the correct answer. And most of the people say option D. So next question. Which AWS service supports a hybrid architecture? So this could be the hybrid architecture that gives user the ability to extend AWS infrastructure, AWS service, API and tool to the data center, co-location environment and on-premise facilities. So if we want to run the AWS services on the on premises, we can use the AWS outpost. So outpost means out means like outside the AWS. So we can use the outpost. Post means like you have posted something somewhere else. So no mobile is just to transfer the data. Fargate is to run the Docker over the AWS. Local zones to deploy the resources on within the local zones to make so that the latency should be low. But here the answer is AWS output. So AWS outputs like support the hybrid architecture. So option C looks correct. A company has a physical tape library to store data backups. So right now, they have physical tape which they are storing some data backup, but the tape library is running out of space. So it's running out of space. The company needs to extend the tape library capacity to the AWS cloud. So they have the tape library on their maybe physical on-premises server. So it get full. Now they want to store the backup, which is running on their own premises. All right, but they want to store the data on the cloud. So how they can do? So basically, they can extend the tape library capacity. So how they can extend the tape library capacity? Which service? Is it EBS? Can they use the elastic block storage? S3? No S3. File system? No. File system is not for the tape. So for the tape, either it's EBS or they can go with the storage gateway. Storage gateway is like from the on premises, you can access the storage services on the cloud. So the question is looks like this only. So you are on the on premises, you are using the tape, but it get running out of scope. So it could be like get full at any time. So you want to extend. So you want to extend that to the like AWS services from on premises. So it could be the AWS storage gateway. So option D looks correct. An online retail company has seasonal sales spikes several times a year. Seasonal sales spend, like let's suppose there is a Flipkart, but like normal in normal day maybe 1,000 users come, but on the Diwali or on some occasion 1 lakh users come. So there would be seasonal spikes primarily around holidays, or demand is lower at other times. So there is a spike on some holidays, but there are like some lower demand across the year. The company find it difficult to predict the increasing infrastructure demand. So they are like facing difficult. They don't know like how many user will come, how much CPU they want. So what advantage moving to the AWS cloud most benefit the company? So which option they can use so that they can get the most benefit? So that can they like randomly predict the amount? So no, they can't randomly predict the amount. Even if they randomly predict the amount, it is of no use because across whole the year demand is very low. Only just for the few days there is a spike, right? So can they? So we need to select the two option, choose two. So which advantage of moving to the AWS cloud? Is it global footprint? No. Service quota? No. Service quota is just like how much limit is there. So shared responsibility model? So definitely no. So C wrong, D wrong. Pay as you go pricing? Pay as you go pricing? Definitely because you just pay and go. Along with the elasticity. Elasticity means like if if there is a spike, then automatically like you will get maybe you are using the auto scaling group, so you will get the extra CPUs or extra EC2 instances, and as soon as the holiday over and the demand is lower, the particular EC2 get terminated automatically. So that is elasticity and pay as you go pricing. So B and E, so B and E looks the correct answer. So okay, so let's look at the next question. Which AWS service can be used to turn text into lifelike? So which service will convert text to speech? So we have covered this thing. Like we have two services. One is that transcribe, one is the poly. And transcribe and the poly both are the different, like opposite to each other. So transcribe did it? Transcribe is convert speech to the text so that you can create the subtitles of the video. And poly will convert text to speech. So here is the poly. Poly is the correct answer. So option A is the correct. Which AWS service or tool can be used to capture information about inbound and outbound traffic in the Amazon VPC? So within the Amazon VPC, if you want to see how what all traffic are coming inside the VPC, what all traffic are going, so where you can see that like kind of logs. So that's the VPC flow log. So we can activate the VPC flow logs and we can see the traffic. So VPC, the endpoint service, NAT gateway, inspector, nothing like that. Inspector is just to do the security scan. NAT gateway is just for the subnet. So VPC flow logs is the right answer. A company wants to ensure that two Amazon EC2 instances are in a separate data center. So they said two EC2 instances should be in the separate data center with minimal communication latency. So latency should be very minimal between the data center. So that like basically means they can communicate without any interruption. So or they can get the response within a microsecond. How can company meet this requirement? So place the EC2 instance in two separate AWS regions. So if you place the EC2 instance in two separate AWS regions, so it means we are placing into two different data centers. That is fine, but the two regions. So one region is maybe like US and one is like Asia. So latency will be high. So we can't go with the region. Place the EC2 instance in two separate availability zones within the same AWS region. So this looks okay. Because if you put in the two availability zones, so two availability zones means two different data centers. So that is okay. And within the same region maybe in the US region or the Europe region or the Asia region. So latency will be less. So this looks okay. Place EC2 instance on premises and other on the AWS. So totally wrong. Place EC2 instance in the placement group. So in the placement group, you are putting the EC2 instance within the same availability zone. If you put two EC2 instance within the same availability zone, means you put the EC2 instance, both the EC2 instance within the same data center. But the requirement is to put in a separate data center. So option B looks correct here. So option B looks correct. In which situation should a company create an IAM user instead of an IAM role? So we need to choose two. So role only when we create a IAM role, basically like when any service wants to interact with another service. But if I want to interact, I should have the IAM user. So when an application wants to interact, no, so that we need the role. When a company create AWS access credential for individuals, so definitely if I need to log in, I have the IAM user access. So I need to create an IAM like go to the IAM and create a new user. So B looks definitely correct. When the company creates an application that run on mobile service, no. So for when the company needs to add user to the AWS group, so if you want to add the user to the AWS group, so you should first create the IAM user. So D looks correct. When users or authenticate in the corporate network want to be able to use AWS without having to sign in second time. No, wrong. So B and D looks correct. So B and D looks correct. Which AWS service should a company use to read and write data that changes frequently? So data that changes frequently. So read and write data that changes frequently. So basically you are doing the read write operation very frequently. So you can't use the Glacier because the Glacier is too deep archival. All right, RDS, definitely we can use the RDS because it's normal database. Snowball is just a transfer, like if you want to transfer your data from your own premises to the AWS cloud, then you can the Snowball. So this is wrong. Redshift is a like uh, you can say warehouse. So warehouse is for the not for the OLTP, it's for the analytic purpose. So this is wrong. File system. So file system looks correct. So B and E looks correct to me. So they said B and D, but if you go to the discussion tab, most of the people said B and D. So B and E looks correct. So next question. Which AWS service is used to provide encryption for the Amazon EBS? So if you want to do the encryption. So certificate manager, so totally wrong. Certificate manager is used just to store the certificate. So because like you are using the HTTPS website, so you have the SS certificate. So you will store the SS certificate in the certificate manager. It's not for the encryption. So system manager, no. KMS, key management store. So definitely correct. Config is not the correct option. So C is correct. Which AWS service is useful global edge location? Is you so choose to. So for the global edge location, so wherever the edge location, so the cloud front and the global accelerator are the two things. So because of this, the latency will be very low. Fargate is for the ECS and VPC is VPC, Amazon VPC virtual private cloud. So these two looks correct, B and C. A company is operating several factories where it build products. So they have several factories. The company needs the ability to process the data. So they want to process the data, they want to store the data, they want to run the application with local system interdependency that require low latency. So which AWS service should the company use to meet this requirement? So Lambda is wrong because it can be used on factories. How? Because on the factories, it should be kind of a sensors, either sensors or some kind of a snowball. So snowball as or we can use to like to store the data and then transfer to the AWS later on. But nothing like that. We want to process the data as soon as possible. So IoT looks good to me. One is the outpost. So outpost is when we want to use the AWS services on the on premises, a kind of hybrid structure. So this doesn't look correct to me. So to me, it looks AWS IoT green grass. So, but most of the people say C, but I'm not sure why the people say C. But for me, it looks A, AWS IoT green grass. If you see, most of the people say C. But if we go to the documentation now, so let's go to the documentation of IoT green grass. So IoT green grass is software that extend cloud capability to the local devices. So, and the same thing we want to run. We want to run the application with the local system. This enable device to collect and analyze the data. And the same thing we want to do. We want to like collect the data, store the data, and process the data. Along with that, they run on the local network. Along with that, if you do AWS IoT Greengrass, so here it is mentioned IoT Greengrass is the application which can like used in the homes and factories. And even the question it is mentioned, we have to use in the factories. So to me, it looks A is the correct answer, but not sure why the people say C. Which of the following, sorry, Which of the following is recommended design principle of AWS cloud architecture? So if you want to build some microservice or any kind of service, so what design you should follow? Design tightly coupled? No, we should be the loosely coupled. Build a single application? Totally wrong. We will not create a monolithic. Make large changes on fewer iteration? No, always make a like a few little changes. Avoid monolith? Definitely correct. We should avoid the monolithic service. We should go with the microservices. So D looks correct. A company is designing its AWS workload so that the components can be updated regularly, so that the change can be made in small, reversible increment manner. So they want to design its AWS workload, and so the components can be updated and in increment manner. So which purpose is this? The security doesn't look like that. Performance, no. Operational excellence looks. Operational excellence means to create resources. So C looks correct. They said B, but most of the people say C. So C looks correct. Okay, which of the following act as an instance level firewall? So instance level firewall means security group, and the subnet level firewall is the NACL. So security group should be the answer. A company has a workload that run continuously for 1 year. The workload cannot tolerate interruption. So if they cannot tolerate interruption, so we can't go with the spot instances. Which Amazon is it to purchasing the most cost effective? So first thing is that they are running for the 1 year. So we will not go with the dedicated. We will not go with the on demand. We will definitely go with the reserved, because reserved only and only need when we go with the 1 year or 3 year. All right. So reserved instance. But in the reserved, whether you will do the payment like all upfront payments, like all the payment in advance or some payment in advance. If we do all the payment in advance, you will get more discount, more saving basically. And if we do some partial payment, you will get a little less discount, maybe 1-2%. So most cost effective is the A. Which AWS service at DDoS? So DDoS attack is the AWS shield. So this comes many times. So option A is correct. Which using AWS config to record, audit, and evaluate changes to the AWS resources to enable traceability. An example of which pillar? AWS architecture pillar. So what AWS will do? So AWS config. So if you have some resources, and within the resources you want to make sure that whoever will create an EC2 instance, they should attach this port. They should not open the 22 port. So this kind of a compliance. So you can record all the changes into the AWS config, and whenever any resource will created, so AWS config will automatically scan all the resources. So basically it will prevent you the security, because it's for the audit. So it's for this is the security pillar. It will come under the security pillar, not the operation, not the performance, not the cost optimization. Security is the correct answer. Which AWS tool or feature act as a VPC firewall at the subnet level? So at the subnet level is the NACL, that is the network ACL, and the instance level is the security group. So B is the correct answer. So that's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you.